This was a decision I did not do lightly. My relationship with God is very strong, and I think a lot of people have talked about it with my faith and said, wow, this is something I thought would have broken you.
Yeah.
Because your relationship with your daughter, how do you know if you're going to see her again? Or how do you know if, the trust is still going to be there with your family or her family? But no, it's doing an adoption plan is trust and faith.
People are in search of the truth. They're looking for answers to their questions as to why things happen the way that they do. They're looking for hope. They're looking for inspiration. They're looking to be encouraged. And that is the mission. Hey, this is Althea with WOVE of Inspiration podcast. I am so encouraged and excited to have this special guest on my show today. Her name is Lauranda Garza, and she works for a adoption agency here in San Antonio. She's going to be sharing her personal story about adoption, as well as how she helps the community when it comes to answering questions and things of that sort. Lauranda, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story on WOVE Inspiration.
Of course, Miss Althea, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Well, like you and I were talking before, my personal story, I got pregnant as a teenager, and my mom, she was going to kill me. So afraid. So I already knew that I wanted to do adoption. I wanted her to have two parents in the home, two parents with her. So told my mom, no, I want to do adoption. And so we looked into different agencies, and I wanted in particular an agency that was run by all women, because I felt like a woman is one of the only individuals that would know what it's like to care for a child in their body. And so my mom found Abrazo Adoption Associates, which is where I've placed. So I came here and I got the paperwork from Elizabeth, my director. I let it sit there for months and months because I wasn't ready. It was something that now, as working here as the birth parent care coordinator, I can see how moms, it takes a toll on them, that they're not ready to make that hard commitment towards. So once I was really able to dive into that, my mom and I took the paperwork back to the agency. We got a handful of profiles, which profiles are of adopted couples who are waiting to adopt children. And I looked through all of them and none of them were in Texas. And that was one of my stipulations. I needed someone in Texas. I could not have my daughter that far from me. And so I took the profiles back and I asked my director, I said, is there anyone in Texas? So she gave me a profile. She says, here, they've just come in. I called my daughter's parents and we clicked. I talked to her parents and we fell in love with each other. And I believe it was maybe 3 weeks later, I had my daughter. I had to have her by emergency C-section. And it's been 16 years. She's a little teenager now, has an attitude like any normal teenager.
Of course.
Yes, any normal teenager. But our relationship hasn't changed. She treats me like I'm another mother to her. I get the attitude and I'm like, excuse me, child. Like,
right.
This was not supposed to happen. I was supposed to be like the cool aunt, like the sister that you could roll your eyes to me about your parents.
Right.
But that's not happening. I'm like another parent to her.
That's awesome. And you know what? One of the questions that I know that some of the listeners is going to ask, how was it that you were able to carry the baby knowing that your little one was going to be adopted, and that in essence that you were going to be giving your baby to someone else to raise and everything? Because what tends to happen sometimes during an adoption is that person may actually change their mind at the last minute because they've become attached to the baby. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily detached, but my feelings were, it's for my daughter. It's not for me. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for her. And that's not to say that the moms that do choose to parent after don't feel that. I put that so far ahead that I didn't even see my daughter after she was born until I signed the paperwork.
Okay.
And that's, at this agency, it's 48 hours after. And we do encourage moms to see the baby. But I was like, nope, I can't see her. Because in my mind or in my heart, I was like, I will change my mind. So I encouraged her parents to see her first.
Okay.
I think my mom was the first one to see her after she was born in the NICU. And then her parents went to go see her.
Okay. That's amazing. You know what? I really commend anyone that makes that decision, because it can be hard, and that society would look at some mother that decides to give their child to up for adoption, and they would say, you know what is wrong with you? Why would you do that? But here's the crazy part, is that we now live in a society where it's okay for people to abort their children, but the option of adoption is like far-fetched. And that's the part I've never, to this day, I'm still trying to understand. You're giving your child life, and you still have the ability to have a relationship, but to no avail. Even at me working at the pregnancy center, I have come across women that say, you know what? No, I would rather terminate this baby than knowing that someone else has my child. So what's your take on that? Because that is just the craziest thing I've ever heard.
And I agree. I talk with moms and we say, you have, when we talk about open and closed adoptions too, they say, I would rather not know anything about my child because it'll hurt too much. And say,
Yeah.
but you'll know your child. Your
Right.
child's going to come to you one day and say, why was this decision made? And say, they'll be able to get an answer from you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I agree, it's a hard decision to make, but you'll still have that connection in an open adoption.
Right. Yeah, and that's just so important for people to really understand, because there's so many misunderstandings and perception of what adoption looks like. They kind of compare it to, well, they're going into a foster care, and I'm like, no, 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 that's not
Yeah.
what that is. And how many people have you experienced or talked to that have had that same thought process?
For foster care?
Yeah, for foster care.
Several, quite a few, where they will talk about adoption and then they'll ask, okay, so once I'm back on my feet, I can get my baby back. I'm like, that's not how it works. So then we have the discussion of, okay, adoption is a permanent decision. So if that's what you're looking for, you sign papers 48 hours after you have baby to terminate your rights. That is what an adoption is. Foster care, that's a different route. Then they'll say, okay, that's what I want to do. Or I'll say, oh no, then that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So then there's like kind of a redirection.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's the clarity that really needs to be understood as far as the difference between what foster care looks like and what an actual adoption looks like. So, going back to you, what's amazing is that you end up going to school, going to the University of Texas A&M or Texas A&M, and with a master's in mental health.
Yes.
So what made you decide to even go in that direction with the experiences that you had in your life?
Counselor that I had in high school. I give her thanks for basically everything. I was seeing her, I think just to give her hours. I think she was there for maybe her internship. I don't know. So I thought I'll go see her during like some classes, get out of. And we started talking, and I talked to her about wanting to be a counselor for birth mothers, because I felt like I'm uniquely qualified to be that type of person for other in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me, and I thought, social work, that'll be great. And so I told her, that's exactly what I want to do. And I told her my exact plan. She says, Lauranda, I think if you want to be a counselor, like if you want to go into this type of field, you will want to do your bachelor's in psychology and your master's in counseling, in clinical mental health. I was like, okay. So that's where my vision was after that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Really, before I had my daughter, I had nowhere I wanted to go. I was like, school? No. For her, I was like, I know exactly what I want to do. And that counselor helped me greatly.
Yeah. That's amazing. That is really awesome, because at 16, like you were saying, it's like you really didn't have any idea of what direction. I don't know of any 16-year-olds that know exactly what they want to do, other than maybe just get out of high school.
Exactly.
And be done with
just be done with school.
Yeah, so for you to have, after with the situation that took place and you having a baby and everything, to be able to have such a sense of direction going forward is pretty awesome. So yeah,
Thank you.
that's cool for real. So I don't know if the audience understands that your journey, you went to this particular agency and now you're working for this particular
Yes.
agency. So how did that actually transition over to now you're working there?
So I did my internship here. I asked Elizabeth, my director, if I could continue with my internship here. And then we were in need of a birth parent care coordinator. So Elizabeth asked me, she was like, Lauranda, do you mind staying on as birth parent care coordinator? I was like, why not? So
That's awesome.
yes, and I've, like I said, in my unique position, have been able to connect with expectant moms. And when they ask, so how are you in your position, or how are you feeling? What did you do? I've been able to share, well, this is what I did. Everyone is different. However, in my position, this is what I did.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So there are also women that are Christians that experience a lot of things in their life, and this may be one of the things that they've experienced as well. Talk to them from a spiritual perspective on what that means for them as far as their relationship with their baby, because we do have examples in the Bible of adoptions and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But talk to the audience about, as far as spiritually, how you were able to make that decision as well. And then going forward, how you're able to impart into other mothers.
Miss Althea, I prayed on it.
Yeah.
This was a decision I did not do lightly. My relationship with God is very strong, and this is something that it took a lot. And I think a lot of people have talked about it with my faith and said, wow, this is something I thought would have broken you,
Yeah.
because your relationship with your daughter, how do you know if you're going to see her again? Or how do you know if, the trust is still going to be there with your family or her family? But no, it's doing an adoption plan is trust and faith. And so I had to have a lot of faith in an open adoption that her parents were going to keep their promises. And so praying that on that and saying, okay, God, I trust that they're going to do their job
Yeah.
in keeping that promise to me that they're going to stay in my life for her.
Yeah.
And they have kept
That's
their open
awesome.
adoption promises. And that's what the families do here. It's
Yeah.
all about faith.
Amen. Amen. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and even when you were talking about how everything came about, because you had been given initially a handful of families that were out of state, but you
Mm-hmm.
were specific in that you wanted to have a family that was in state, in the state of Texas. Were there any
Yes,
other particular things that you were looking for as far as the parents?
yes, I did want someone of faith, as you were saying. So my daughter does have that. And I wanted someone of faith and someone in Texas. And
Yeah.
I wanted someone with good family background, family traditional backgrounds. And they met all of that requirement.
Awesome. That, I
And
mean, your story is just amazing for real.
And as you speak of faith, I chose my daughter's parents 2 weeks before I gave birth to her.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about like in the nick of time.
I met them in person 2 weeks before I gave birth to her. And then I turned
Wow.
around and called them. I was like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to come back down because she's coming.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
Yes.
And so it just shows how God really orchestrates
Yes.
everything. And Romans 8:28, where it says that all things work together for the good of them that love
Mm-hmm.
God and who are the called according to his purpose. All of these things that we go through, and then what you went through as far as finding out that you're pregnant at the age of 16 and everything, it may appeared to look like a really bad situation,
Mm-hmm.
just like horrible. But God orchestrated everything to work out for good because he has to get the glory out of this.
Yes.
So it's amazing that your story is just it's uncommon because again, we're living in this society to where people want to have a quick fix
Mm-hmm.
on things and feel like they're going to be able to go forward. And it's just, unfortunately, it doesn't end up that way.
They thrive. We see them and we're so excited to see what they end up doing. A lot of it, like you were saying, adoption isn't negative.
So, what are some of the other services that you offer as a mom that has made the decision to have their child adopted? What services do you guys offer during the time of their pregnancy?
We do counseling for them, and once they are with us, we do offer support when they're at a certain gestational age at their pregnancy.
Okay. Okay. And
If they are with
does
us.
that include medical and all of that as well?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. That's amazing. And is there any counseling that's for them once they've had the baby
Yes.
and and they're trying to adjust to all of that as well?
Yes, and counseling goes normally most of our services are for 8 weeks after birth. Counseling is for however long they wish.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've had moms who have placed 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and they are still able to get counseling.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how can people get in contact with you guys as far as your services are concerned? Can they speak directly to you specifically with any questions? How can people reach you?
I listed the agency's website on there, abrazo.org.
Okay.
Yes, but they can call the office, or I can give my work number for a text to reach me for counseling
and
services.
You are on and you're on Facebook as well.
Yes.
If somebody wanted to reach out to you as well.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, for counseling services if they wish.
Okay. So, do you have any last words for our listening audience or for that woman that may be having to make a very hard decision?
I think everyone, you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. I know it's hard, but you can take that step.
Absolutely.
You can take that step. And we are here. And we will always be here.
Yeah. There are a lot of resources out there here in San Antonio and throughout the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. Several different adoption agencies. There are pregnancy centers out there. I work for a pregnancy center here in San Antonio. And yeah, there is help out there. And it just takes that one step to go to someone and say, you know what? I want to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for taking your time out of your schedule to be on WOVE Inspiration to share your story of encouragement. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Miss Althea, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, you guys, this is Althea with WOVE Inspiration Podcast. You guys have a blessed day. Take care. Hey, thank you for watching WOVE Inspiration Podcast with your host, Althea Richardson. Are you in need of more inspiration? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok under WOVE Inspiration. You guys have a blessed day. Take care.